Welcome to the June 2024 edition of the OPEC Monthly Oil Market Report. Today we would like to present a short overview of the key highlights of the report, as well as the main changes and revisions from last month. We also invite you to view or download the complete version of our MOMAR, which can be accessed on OPEC's official website at www.opec.org. It provides comprehensive coverage of oil market developments over the past month, as well as a detailed view of what our expert analysts forecast for the months to come. The world economic growth forecasts for 2024 and 2025 remained unchanged at 2.8% and 2.9% respectively. For the U.S., the economic growth forecasts for 2024 and 2025 remained unchanged at 2.2% and 1.9% respectively. The economic growth forecast for the Eurozone remained unchanged at 0.5% for 2024 and 1.2% for 2025. Japan's economic growth forecasts were revised down to 0.3% in 2024 and 0.9% in 2025. China's economic growth forecasts remained at 4.8% in 2024 and 4.6% in 2025. India's economic growth forecast remained unchanged at 6.6% for 2024 and 6.3% for 2025. Brazil's economic growth forecast is revised up to 1.8% for 2024, but remained unchanged at 1.9% for 2025. The global oil demand growth forecast for 2024 remained unchanged from last month's estimates at 2.2 million barrels per day. Accordingly, OECD oil demand is now expected to grow by 0.2 million barrels per day, while the non-OECD forecast remains at 2 million barrels per day. In 2025, global oil demand is expected to see robust growth of 1.8 million barrels per day year-on-year, unchanged from the previous month's assessment. The OECD is expected to grow by 0.1 million barrels per day year-on-year, while demand in the non-OECD is forecast to increase by 1.7 million barrels per day. The non-declaration of cooperation liquid supply, i.e. liquid supply from countries not participating in the DOC, is expected to grow by 1.2 million barrels per day in 2024, unchanged from the previous month's assessment. The main drivers for growth are expected to be the US, Canada, Brazil, and Norway. In 2025, non-DOC liquid supply growth is expected at 1.1 million barrels per day, unchanged from the previous month's assessment. The growth is expected to be mainly driven by the US, Brazil, Canada, and Norway. OPEC 12 crude oil production in May increased by 29,000 barrels per day month-on-month to average 26.63 million barrels per day, according to available secondary sources. Non-OPEC DOC crude oil production in May decreased by 152,000 barrels per day month-on-month, averaging 14.29 million barrels per day. Taken together, DOC crude oil production in May decreased by 123,000 barrels per day month-on-month, averaging 40.92 million barrels per day, as reported by available secondary sources. Preliminary April 2024 data shows total OECD commercial oil stocks rose by 16.6 million barrels month-on-month. At 2,773 million barrels, they were 154 million barrels below the 2015 to 2019 average. Within the components, crude stocks were up by 19.5 million barrels, while product stocks declined by 2.9 million barrels month-on-month. OECD commercial crude stocks stood at 1,376 million barrels in April, which is 96 million barrels less than the 2015 to 2019 average. OECD total product stocks in April stood at 1,396 million barrels. This is 58 million barrels below the 2015 to 2019 average. In terms of days of forward cover, OECD commercial stocks increased in April by 0.1 days month-on-month to stand at 60.1 days. This is 2.2 days less than the 2015 to 2019 average. Demand for DOC crude, i.e. crude from countries participating in the Declaration of Cooperation, remains unchanged from the previous month's assessment to stand at about 43.2 million barrels per day in 2024, which is around 0.9 million barrels per day higher than the estimated level for 2023. Demand for DOC crude in 2025 remains unchanged from the previous month's assessment to stand at 43.9 million barrels per day, around 0.7 million barrels per day higher than the level estimated for 2024. Thank you for joining us for this overview of the key highlights and changes as featured in the June 2024 issue of the OPEC Monthly Oil Market Report. For more detailed information on this and other reports, please visit our website at www.opec.org. We appreciate your interest and look forward to you joining us again for the next edition of the MOMAR, which will be published on the 10th of July 2024. Until then, goodbye.